So it's good to illustrate that when you get this kind of a question, the first thing is to get the information for the first process, which will be almost complete, if not complete. Once you have the items for process one, or whichever the process, it becomes very easy to fit for the subsequent processes. I want us to work from the Excel. So here we are, we need to draw a process account. Process account. So you see the basis of accounting applies. Don't forget to indicate the topic, name of the company, followed by the type of statement that you are preparing. In this case, it's process account. You are calling them deluxe paints. That's answer because it's an examination question. Then it's process account. And there are several processes. So this process one account. What's the month? For the month ended October. It's October, November.
October.
So October has 30 days. And not been given the year. So for the month ended October. So this is a process account. Several. We have two columns, one for the number of units and the other one for the amount. So there we are. So our amount is given in, no, our units are given in liters, right? We are talking of liters of paints. Then in shillings. So you'll feed the information that we have for process one. We have the input, the raw materials, right? Give me the figures, raw materials. This is input.
20 liters. 20,000 liters.
20,000 liters. Have we been given the cost?
At 50 shillings.
We multiply, that will be 1 million.
Yes. Yes.
It will give us 1 million. Let this column be in money. Is 2. So we go on. Then we've been given the added costs. So you're taking them as they are. Give me the added cost. You have the materials. What's the cost?
160,000.
460. Then we have labor.
386.
386. Then we have the overheads.
165.
65. That's all the cost that we have, right?
Yes.
So we can close that account. No big deal. This will be 2011. Need to go back to the question. That labor, you gave me 385, 386. I'm going to my original question. Otherwise, we will spend here the whole of the lesson trying to balance the I'm going back to the paper. I think there was some correction somewhere. Yeah, the labor is supposed to be 385. Can correct that on your end. Let's work with 385. There is a reason for that. These questions are normally pre-tested to see whether they'll be meaningful. So let's work with 385. So 385 is giving me 2010. I'm trying to avoid decimals because this is 20,000. So here we are. Let us work with 385 for labor to avoid the decimals. So if we go to the credit side of the process one account, the items that we are supposed to document here, we need the normal loss. We've been given the normal loss. What's the figure for normal loss? We've been given some percentage. What's the figure for normal loss?
10%.
10%.
We've been told that normal loss is supposed to be 10% of the input. So our input is 1 million. So 10% of 1 million, or if we take the 10% of the liters, 10% of 20,000 is 2,000.
Yes.
2,000 liters. What is the cost?
50.
What's the cost of normal loss? Normal loss, it has a different cost.
15 shillings per liter.
15 shillings per liter. So 15 multiplied by 2,000, you are going to get
30,000.
30,000.
30,000.
30,000. Then what we don't have is the abnormal loss. And this one you will get because you've not been given. And then we have the output, or the what is going to process 2, transfer to process 2. So output to, let's indicate here to process 2. What are we giving to process 2? How many liters?
16.
16.
16.
16.
16,000.
Yes.
Yes.
So we can tell the number of liters in abnormal loss is 2,000 because this has to total to 20,000. Now the good thing about process account, you don't force it to balance. It will balance. What you need to get is now the actual figures for the abnormal loss and for the output. So this is 2010. That's why we are balancing our account at. So we are going to work with what we have. So we have 30,000, which is our normal loss. So can we get the cost of the expected output? We can get, right? Because we have the scrap value. So our cost of the expected output will be 2010 minus 30,000, which is our scrap. We divide by 18,000, isn't it? What do you get?
110.
Yes,
110.
110.
Yes.
100.
So our cost per unit is 110. So we are going to multiply the abnormal loss by 110. What are you going to get? $2,000 times 110.
120,000.
20,000. And 16,000 times 110.
1,760,000.
1,760,000
Yes.
should balance. So getting the results for process 1, I've said, is not a big deal because you are being guided by the ab initio information, or the information that you get from the word go. What you need to know is that you have to value the abnormal loss at the cost per unit of the completed or the finished goods in that particular process. So that should be clear. What you knew or what you had provided for is like providing for bad debts or doubtful debts. That figure, you already have it. What you don't have is either the increase or the decrease. In this case, the increase now becomes a loss. That's why we are talking of the abnormal loss, what you didn't anticipate. So when you fed your 20,000 liters, you expected to have a normal loss of 2,000 liters, maybe because of evaporation, because of the chemical reactions in the factory line, etc. But the 2,000, so having provided for 2,000, you expected to have an output of 18,000. But you now got 16. So 2,000 now becomes the abnormal loss. And that's why they are priced at the same price as the final product, all the goods that you're processing in that particular process. Now we go to process 2. Copy paste this. But I work here instead. I can work on this side. So we said our basis of accounting still stays. So this is cost accounting. You still have to make sure that you follow. So we are now in process 2. Let me make this a bit. So we are in process 2. In process 2, when you open process 2, we say that in process accounting, the output of this process becomes the input of the subsequent process. So our output becomes the input. So we'll talk of the input from process 1. And our input is 16,000. 16,000 liters at a cost of 1760. You can see how important that figure is, because if you get it wrong, then it means in the subsequent parts, suppose a question has 3 processes. It means that if you get it wrong from the word go, yeah, then you are going to get erroneous results through and through for your equivalent unit. That's why the manager is supposed to be keen. Then we have the added cost for this particular process. Give me the added cost. You have the material. What's the cost? The cost is given there. Can you see the process? We have process 1 and process 2.
368.5.
So that is 368,500. We've been told the material in thousands of shillings.
Yes.
So 368,500. Then we have labor.
304,500.
304.
500.
500. Overheads.
211,200.
211,200. So this totals to 16,000. And this totals to, we give some allowance. I know this one will be a bit lengthy because of the closing work in progress. So this totals to 26,44,200. We have the balance in figure. Take this information on the other side. So what we need to know, or what we need to account for, let me shrink this. So we follow suit. We need the figure for normal loss. Have we been given normal loss? We've been given a percentage, right? We'll be coming to it. We have the abnormal loss. You first input the figure that you have. Of course, this is the elephant in the room. Then we need our processes are, we have processes, this process to account. We have 2 processes. So when we are talking of the output, our output now will be finished goods. Had we had another process, we would be talking of the transfer to process 3 or output to process 3. But in this case, we only have two processes. So we'll be talking of transfer finished goods. I said you be keen on information. We mark entries and use FG here instead of finished goods. FG to finished goods. Do you have that figure? What are we transferring to finished goods? You've been given this. How many units are we producing?
13 liters. 13,000 liters.
13,000 liters. So, and we have the closing work in progress, isn't it? Been given closing work in progress.
2,000 liters.
2,000
2,000.
Yes.
2,000 liters. So this totals to 15,000. So our 1,000 is a combination of normal and abnormal loss, right? Have we been given the percentage of normal loss?
5%.
5%.
Of input, yes.
So 5% of input, which is 16, what do we get?
$800.
Yes?
800.
800.
Yes.
So we know that our abnormal loss is 200.
800. Huh?
Yeah, I've indicated 800. So I'm saying automatically our abnormal loss is 200. You are looking for 1,000, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So what we don't have is the cost, and that is what you are supposed to establish. We need to get the equivalent units. Just like the way we did in the first case, we were able to get the cost per unit, right? So we also need to get the cost per unit of the units that were, or what we call the statement of equivalent unit. We need to equate all the units to complete units for purposes of getting the cost. That's why I said process accounting is the basis of standard costing or budgeting. You need to do that. So we talk of the statement of equivalent unit. I want to show you how easy it is if you're procedural. But if you bungle your work right, left, and center, you are going to be lost. So what we need to have is we need to have the units, which is given, which is known, so that we solve for the unknown. We have the input materials, because this will help us get the, and then from there we've been given some ratios, isn't it? For the material, labor, and overhead. Let us start with the abnormal loss. That's the elephant in the room. Abnormal loss. Abnormal loss, you said they are 200 units, right? What's the percentage of input material? What's the percentage? Is 100. Input material is always 100. We've been given the previous process cost is 100%, right? What about the material?
50%.
80% is for something else. For the abnormal loss, look at the last statement.
70%.
70%.
70%. Labor,
50.
indicate
50.
these are percentages to avoid confusion. %. Don't think it will even work for us because we have different percentages. So we'll be talking of the, just give me the 100% is 100% of 200 is 200. Material is, you say 70%.
70, yes.
70%.
70% of 200. 140.
140, yes.
Then labor,
50%.
50.
50 is 100.
100.
Overhead,
40.
40.
40% of 200. That is
80.
80. That is abnormal loss. The other item that we need to get is the transfer to finished goods. Let's start with the closing work in progress. This figure, because you've been given the percentages. I've said you start working with the knowns, what you have been given. So input material again is 100% complete, which is 2000. The figure for material is the earlier figure that you are giving me. 80%.
80%.
What is 80% of 2000?
1400.
1400. Labor.
Labor 70%.
70% of 2000.
1400.
1400. Then you erroneously gave me for material. It cannot be equal. If this was, then this should be a different figure.
The one for 80, the one for material it's 1600. And then for labor it's 1400.
Okay. For overhead, what's the percentage of overhead?
The percentage is 50. The
So 50 is 1000.
cost is 1000.
So we have that. Then we have the, let's now pick the transfer to finished goods.